We're here to talk fantasy basketball, to answer your questions live. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked Fantasy Basketball podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and if this brother had a few more inches, oh Lord. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. Be a double banger. Go and hit the subscribe over here on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, go listen to the audio later on, or just download it. Just keep it cracking, keep the numbers pumping. Important to maintain some momentum here. Through the All-Star break, there will be shows. I don't know exactly what the shows are going to be, so if you actually do have a suggestion of what you want the shows to be through the All-Star break, let me know. I will take some suggestions. Doesn't mean I'll do them, but I will take those suggestions. There is definitely something coming up regarding the old trade deadline. Not the trade deadline. What am I talking about? The fantasy playoffs. I'm so stuck on the old trade deadline from last week that that's what I'm talking about. So we are here to answer your questions. Unfortunately, my guest he must be asleep. Kingy's not here, so I don't know what's happened. Probably my fault for not reminding him that he was coming on, but oh well. I can just do it. I'll just do it solo. I'll just answer your questions solo. Get ready to crack on there. Get your questions in. Let's talk fantasy. And Daniel asks the question immediately: how fake is Deni Avdija's recent run? All these questions are, and I get where you're coming from. These questions are always hard to answer because how do I quantify that? And that's being a little bit nitpicky, but look, how fake? Like a little fake, 20% fake, 40% fake. It is hard to quantify, but I think it's easier to look at and say, is it fake or is it real? Now, I talked about this at length yesterday in the recap show. It's fake. Like, to a huge degree, it's fake. The man is the 11th ranked player over the last week. He's top 50 over the last 2 weeks. Why? We're shooting 62% from the field. There's your number one thing that it's fake. He's also averaged 39 minutes over the last 4 games. Is that fake? Maybe. His usage is up to 24%, averaging 28 points. Probably fake. He's hitting 50% from 3 over the last 16 games. It's 100% going to come down. This man has not gone over 32% in his career, and yeah, he's improved a lot. I don't think that it's that real, and yeah, look, I've got him projected 38% rest of the season. That's very different from 50. His 2-point percentage is up at 67% over his last 7 games. He's at 57 for the year. Like, these are just numbers that are so sky high. His true shooting 71 over the last 7 games. 71. Even though he's taken a big step forward this year, he's at 61. So it's not about a star is born. It's not about we've truly unlocked this great talent. And people have this weird idea. Someone commented, Josh, just understand, like, Denny's a star. He's going to be, there's a reason he was compared to Luka Doncic in the draft and was like a consensus top 3 pick. The reason he was compared to Luka Doncic in the draft is A, people didn't know what they were talking about. B, he was white and from Europe. And C, the reason he was projected in the top 3 of that draft is because those people didn't know what they were talking about, and he was never going to go in the top 3 in that draft, and he didn't go in the top 3 in that draft. So yeah, he has improved. It is also year 4, and we are seeing this stretch happen right now. Also worth remembering, again, I'm going on about Denny here as well. These last 4 games are great. The 2 games prior to that, 20 minutes and 25 minutes, and 35, 26, 25, 24, 27. It's a really good hot streak. So is it fake? Yeah, it's really, really fake. As much as he has improved, it's fake. Cool. We got that? We're good. Memphis shutdowns. Adam, that's a question, but it's also not really a question, but Obi, I know, it's annoying. Yeah, look, we know that there's going to be weird stuff happening. We've said this the whole time, and already today, like, you see all these guys listed doubtful. Jaren Jackson, doubtful. Cool. These guys, this is going to happen the entire way. That's why I've been saying for about 3 weeks. Sell Jaren Jackson for a top 50 player if you can do it. Don't bother with Kennard or Conchart. I think there's going to be issues with these guys like Gilead and Pippen. GG's probably relatively safe from a playing time and games played perspective, but that doesn't mean that he's going to be great every game. In fact, he might get to the situation where he Jordan Clarkson's it, where the more touches he gets, the more usage he gets, the worse he is for category leagues because of the inefficiency. So just be cautious about that sort of stuff. As I choke on whatever I'm choking on here, nothing, air. So that's that's how that all looks. Here's a non-basketball question. Why no Valentine's Day plans on Wednesday? Because my partner's away. She's away at a business retreat, so it was just me. So what do you want me to do? I'm not going to make up, go find a date for one night while she's away. I'm sure she'd be really happy with that. What's Scoot's rest of season category league value? No point in giving like an exact number because that's quite variable. I just think you add him. He's been top 100 over the last 3 weeks, so it's reasonable to expect that he could be top 100 from here on out. He might not be, but you add him, and you just go with it from that. Jonathan says, do you agree with me in thinking Tyus Jones will be top 60 over the last 2 months of the season? I don't agree with you on that, Jonathan. I think there'll be some shenaniganizing happening with the Wizards, and I think that he will see some minutes reduce at some point. He can be quite up and down in terms of his minutes, usage, and shooting percentages. I would say top 100 easily. Top 90 maybe. Top 100, I don't think so. No, sorry, top 60, I don't think so. Is Trey Jemison a good stream for today? Yeah, I would say so, yes. Do we start selling on marketing already? Manila's most wanted. I hope you aren't actually a criminal, but yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. I am very confident that marketing will not play in April. I think there will be some games off at some point in March, and that Jazz roster may start to devolve into the Grizzlies situation. Not quite as extreme. That is just speculation, right? Like, I don't know that that's going to happen. So it really would depend who you're going to be getting back. But yes, I would be looking into that as something I'd be very interested in doing, I think. What are the chances for Amen to remain a 12-team guy rest of season? It's hard, right? He probably needs 25 minutes a night. And that would mean a benching or a 27-minute-a-night role for Jalen Green. And I don't, as much as the frustration's growing for MA, I'm not sure that happens. But I will say this. I've been pretty much saying a lot of this time, I don't really see the minutes. I don't see what they're going to do. Jalen Green was playing well. But the timing of this is very interesting. The Rockets put up an absolute stinker yesterday. Ime Udoka was annoyed at all of his players, especially Jalen. Jalen got benched and had Nate Hinton play minutes over him in the second half. And that carries into the time of year that I've said all along is when the coaching staff sits down and they go, so what are we doing the rest of the year? How do we adjust this? What changes are we going to make? And you see these, and you'll see the reports, I believe, will start trickling out like Tuesday next week, Wednesday next week, where the report is X team has decided that they will be starting this guy the rest of the way, or whatever, or a lineup change is coming for this team, because they sit down and they try and debate it. So if this benching of Jalen Green had happened 4 weeks ago, well, that's fine, he'll go back into his role. The fact that it happens the game before the break, the fact that MA was very, very specific about, yeah, we're going to look in changing our lineup, our starting lineup and our rotations, makes you go, will they just start Amen next to Fred? I still want, Amen's value drops if he's not the point guard, but that is a little bit more interesting to me. And it's like the perfect confluence of events. Starting at point guard, Van Vliet injured, Green having a stinker and getting benched, and Ime getting frustrated right before the break. That all adds up to, maybe. And again, I didn't think that 2 weeks ago, because I just didn't think they were going to bench Jalen Green. And things have just gone completely tits up for him recently. Evan Blake, do I think Kuminga will crash back down to what he used to be, or is this now just a slump? I would lean more towards it being just a slump, but it was also, as long as we acknowledge that ridiculous run that he was on, much like Deni Avdija at the moment, was just impossible to sustain. It's very unlikely for players to just go, all right, now I'm 15 percentage points better as a shooter because I did it for 2 weeks. That's just very unlikely. And now also I'm a good free throw shooter. Also, by the way, I'm adding defensive stats at double the rate. That's just not something that realistically happens. And Kuminga's coming back to a more manageable level. I won't rule it out that he goes back to old Kuminga. I don't think he will, because his field goal percentage has been relatively strong all season. But I do think that we're in a stage where it's a bit of a slump. But those heights that he hit last time, probably not likely to get back to that number. Obi, it is absolutely fine. You don't need to react to that. So what happens when it's a live show? I can't even go pause it and tell him to shut up. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with me at Lockin Fantasy Basketball to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. When you're scouting the waiver wire, getting the right players off the wire can help you get the way to a championship by getting players that are guaranteed fit on your roster. I'm going to talk about Marvin Bagley because I think he's gone a little bit under the radar at the moment. And again, I love Marvin Bagley, great player, awesome guy. I just think he needs to be on rosters. There's no other center on that team. They might do some shenanigans later on and bring in somebody else. But for now, Bagley, despite his relatively limited fantasy game, is going to get a lot of minutes. He's going to get decent shots. He's going to rebound. And he's going to be useful for fantasy, which is not a phrase I've really ever said. So, if that brings you to win your fantasy championship, fantastic. eBay Motors knows that a championship team is all about each player being a perfect fit, and that's the same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts, if you're number one ride or die, you can make sure that your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever it is your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber and not cash. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers, eligible items only, and exclusions apply. Okay, let's go into some other questions that you guys have. So someone says, is Larry Markkinen a buy low? That's the opposite of what that guy said. No, he's I guess sort of. He is slumping in production at the moment, but I'd be a little bit cautious about doing that. That's interesting, isn't it? Let's have a look. What are my thoughts on the Jamal Murray and the timetable for return? He'll be fine. He'll play the next game after the break. Absolutely not worried about that whatsoever. Ken DeWong says, do you think we should trust Ben? I assume you mean Simmons. Or is he going to have limited minutes injury management? I believe he will have limited minutes and injury management for the rest of the season. Can you trust that? I can trust that it's going to improve. He played 21 minutes most of those games. He played 24 the last one. I don't think we'll hit 33. We might, but I think we'll push up to 29 and he'll still have back-to-backs off. That would be my guess, hoping there's no setbacks. But yeah, I think you can trust to a degree, but also not really. And we'll see where that goes. What's Gordon Hayward's rest of season 9 cat value? I don't really see him as a 12-team league player. More of a 14-team league guy, I think. Fox versus Curry in points. Cookies. Let me give you appreciate you being here and adding a question here, but this goes for anybody playing in a points league. I have no idea what your league is. I have none. Nobody does. I don't know what your scoring is. You're playing ESPN standard, Sleeper standard, CBS standard, Yahoo standard, some custom format that makes your league the best league out of all leagues in the world. I don't know. And therefore, I don't know what those players are averaging. Look what they're averaging for the season. Look what they're averaging for the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Look at how that goes. And then compare them and then make a call. It's not, when you're talking about a trade, also, I feel like you're just trading for the sake of trading. That would be my guess. Because I'm going to guess that one of those guys is a 42-point player and the other one is a 43-point player. So you're just making a trade for the sake of a trade. And it probably doesn't matter that much. So just do it if that's what you want to do. That is how a lot of trades go. Also, don't overthink it. And yeah, be cautious with what you pull off. Giggity. That's a great Valentine's Day tip, actually. Pistons shutdown. Should we look at... Jacob. Just the term shutdown is just so annoying, right? It's so annoying. Should we be looking to sell Kate? In the end, what everyone's going to do is every player on every team that's not in the playoffs is going to try to get traded away. And in reality, this stuff impacts the last 2 to 2.5 weeks of the season where hopefully your fantasy season is over. And it doesn't happen to as many players as you think it does, much like the trade deadline, where people think that everyone's getting moved and all this stuff's going to happen, and it doesn't. So most of the time, there are significant overreactions. Now, I think Larry Markkinen's a good one to look at. I think guys like Grant and Ayton and Simons will probably not play the final 2 weeks of the season. Same with Malcolm Brogdon. I think you run into some risks with a lot of those older guys and some of the better younger guys who are battling injuries. Like, I don't think Cade will play to the final game. I think he'll probably sit the last week or so, but I don't think that means we need to panic through many situations. Most of this time is, unless there's something really glaring, and the Jaren one is very glaring in Memphis, unless there's something really glaring, generally just ride it out, get the production. There's still like a 50-50, if not better chance that guy continues to play all the way through your playoffs. And then if he doesn't, there's not a lot that I think would have been worthwhile doing to mitigate that circumstance. Okay. Would I drop LaMelo Ball or Desmond Bane? Oh, interesting. I feel more confident about Ball returning than I do with Bane, but I also don't know. And the other thing I'd look at there is Ball is a better player than Bane. So given I have more confidence in Ball returning and I think he's a better player, I'd be more interested in dropping Bane. Should you be worried if Halliburton has 3 games instead of 4 in my No, you should not. Look, what are you going to do about it? You can't invent an extra game. Should you trade him for Shea? Yeah, like, sure. But be really cautious about what you do. I'm going to do a whole playoff show coming up, probably released tomorrow, I guess. And you need to just be really cautious about overreacting to stuff. Should you be worried? I'm sure you've got other things to worry about in life than that, and that's going to be on the list of your list of things to worry about. Oh, Kingy is here now. All right. Let's put on the headphones. who's I'll bring the right screen up. Kingy, can you hear me, Kingy?
I can.
Welcome. Just getting back from a night out cosplaying as Poison Ivy, I see from the background.
That's right. Yes, my double life.
There we go. All right, so now, Kingy, you are here to take some of these questions on. So let's bring them on. Good to see you. All right. We'll do the question. Everyone's asking it. Trey Mann, what are you thinking with Trey Mann?
I think he has to be rostered.
Yep, very, very comfortably. Mallow coming back will impact him, I'm pretty sure. And true. That's true.
If and when. Yep.
But I think that he will start over Cody Martin. I think he's got that game that can be relatively fantasy friendly on a team like this. He's actually playing really well at the moment. And as with a lot of these guys, it's free money. Like if in the end LaMelo comes back and he does go to the bench and LaMelo plays out the season and Mann plays 20 minutes, well, you drop him and you go, all right, cool, I got a nice couple of weeks out of it, but I'm all good. That doesn't matter that much. It's not like you were some fool who said Jordan Poole should go in the first few rounds and you'd picked him there and wasted that pick. Right? You got a guy for free. He gave you great numbers and there could be a great chance the rest of the season. I think there's a decent top 100 shot. Maybe not top 100, but he's got a decent shot at it, I would say.
Yeah, and I think he can play alongside LaMelo as well.
I agree.
Like you said, I think he starts over Cody Martin. So
I agree. Do I think I'm a bit harsh on Huckers? Not at all. What have I said that's harsh? I just think that I'm being realistic. Like, all I was doing is pushing back on people saying, this guy's the third best rookie. He should go number 3 in a redraft. He's got future star potential. Me saying I think he's a solid player who's been better than I thought, but he's a role player. How's that being harsh? Like, I can't come out here and just jerk off every player and tell them that they're going to be the best guy in the world because it's just not true. So I don't know how that's being harsh. If you think it's being harsh, it probably means that you have outsized expectations on that player. Again, I can't. Some people just want me to say, well, yeah, you know what? Everyone's got potential. They're only young. They could all be great. What's the point of that? Everyone's a star. You're all winners. You can't do that. Anyway, what's your opinion on Huckers, Kingy?
I think he's a very good fit. Miami drafted him for a reason. They're a very smart organization. They knew what they were getting. He's a bit older. So I think of all the rookies, he's probably one of the best in terms of fit, in terms of like where he's playing and his role. But he's certainly not the third best rookie. I think he's been really good, but yeah, I think, as you said, I think he's more of a role player than a option 1 or 2.
I talked about this on the show the other day, talking about how like people were really excited about what he did, but all of the impact stats were really down on him. He was like very low down in all those stats. Like, okay, so if you're doing all this stuff and playing so well, then why is the team consistently worse off when you're on the court? And I know that's pretty common for a rookie, but if you're NBA ready and you're outperforming all this stuff, like you'd think there'd be something positive pushing up, but it just wasn't, and that did end up happening. And he's fine. He's a really good role player. He might even be like a 4th or 5th starter in 3 years' time on a team and be solid. I just don't see star upside, and that's okay. And I could be wrong. And also, you could be wrong too. I just don't think there's anything I'm being harsh about. Like, if I'm being harsh, it's probably me saying that David Roddy's the worst player in the NBA. He's probably the 2nd worst player. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on that one. Kingy, let's have a look. Well, what are we looking at here? Okay, so here's a question on Embiid and Randall. What's your estimate on their return? I don't think that Embiid is going to play in the fantasy season. Do you think he might get, let's say, what's your over-under 5 games in the regular season more for Embiid?
Under.
I think it's probably marginally over, maybe like 6 to 7 is my guess.
I think he might come back with more than 5 games left, but I'm not sure he plays in all 5 of those games.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then the other one's Randall. I think we're looking at maybe beginning of March would be my guess. They've been pretty like weird in terms of giving us a timetable on that. So like I think there are a lot of people who just expect Randall to be back first game after the break, and that's just not going to happen, I'm pretty sure. But I reckon we see another week to 10 days after the end of the break that he might return there is my guess.
Yeah, I think I had in my head about a week after the All-Star break. So that would put him, very end of February, early March.
I think that sounds about right to me. Aaron says Trey Jones will be playing about 25 minutes. He gets like between 2 to 10 assists. We expect any change, hopefully positive. Keep or drop in 12-team cap. I'll address the last part first, Kingy. Yeah, you keep him. The minutes have been down. They're getting blown out every game, right? So if you go look at his game log, he's not closing games because they're getting blown out. But do we expect them to not get blown out as we move forward? There's going to be a lot of blowouts for this team. So I think that there was a run where they were being more competitive. He was playing 33 minutes a night. It was great. I'm not sure that 33-minute expectations are realistic at the moment. I think we can push up a little bit. They won't get beaten by 20 every game. But with that sort of built into what they do, I think you've got to drop back a little bit of your expectation, but I still think he needs to be rostered. Or do you see something different there?
No, I think he does. As you said there, they've had a lot of blowouts in the last week or two. Yeah, I think just purely probably because of the assists upside, they're just very hard to find assists, and he does have that upside of 10 assists, and they're not a team that needs to. Well, I know you were just talking about shutdown. They're not going to shut down, but they don't need to tank or anything like that to lose games because they're just losing games. So there's no reason to be worried about him. They're just not going to play him because they're losing with him on the court. So I'd be holding him.
Yeah, the only reason you do it is to try and give other guys opportunities, and that has happened a little bit lately with a little bit more Blake Wesley, a little bit more Malachi Branham, but they also did that at the start of the season, so I'm not sure that that's going to be something that goes on down the stretch. But I think we hold him, and then, again, it's one of those ones where you don't need to be proactive with it. If it changes for the worse, then you move on in weeks' time if that's what's necessary. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar that you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That is right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim as of quarter 1, 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC is a registered broker-dealer. Kingy, do you know what an IRA is in reference to that ad?
Nope.
Neither do I. But I'm going to guess it is a individual retirement something. I think it's like superannuation is my guess. I know 401k is like super. I'm going to guess.
Asset, maybe? I don't know.
Chat, what is IRA? I'm reading this ad and it's like, get your IRA. And I'm going, I don't want to talk about like domestic terrorism in the British Isles in the 1980s. Like, what are we talking about here? All right. Is Pods a must roster in a standard 9-cat league?
Individual retirement account. There you go.
I wasn't far. How did I not get a count for that? I got individual retirement.
You were very close.
Bloody hell. All right. Is Pods a must roster in a standard 9-cat league?
Ooh. I think he probably is at the moment, but Chris Paul coming back soon-ish. Gary Payton's back there. Clay seems to be sort of still playing meaningful minutes. Wiggins has been a little bit better. I'm not sure. Like I think I've seen him dropped in a few spots. He's right on that cut line, I think.
I think if you depends how you want to frame must roster. Should someone have Pajemski on their roster at the moment? Probably yes, right? Should you be looking at him going, I cannot drop him, I just have to hold? No, I don't think so. Because you're right, like last game was great, and the game before he played 27 minutes and didn't really do much in that one. And consistently, he's been good. And if you want to just look at it by the eye test or even like the numbers, like he's been their third best player. Draymond's been their second now. He's been their third best player. He's been consistently better than Wiggins and consistently better than Clay. But that doesn't mean that he consistently gets minutes over those two. As you see, he starts behind them. Kuminga's been their third best. Well, actually, Kuminga's probably been their third best. But anyway, so if you believe that like eventually that wins out, well, I'm not sure that it does. At the moment under Coach Steve, I'm not sure that he's able to push into that role consistently over those guys. And you're right, Chris Paul probably does end up making him a drop. So for now, like you probably should be sitting on someone's roster. But if we reassess this in 2 weeks, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. What do you make? Someone said IRA stands for Isaiah's reckless assault. All right, so what do you make? Right. What do you make of the Stewart situation? Apart from just apart from the situation, do you think it makes Ausar Thompson's situation or holding him a little bit easier? I don't think that Stewart's going to cop a big suspension here. The NBA is notoriously soft on this sort of stuff. Like, I don't think people just think they're going to kick him out of like that's not happening. He might get 2 games. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a huge timeout for him, even though we might think it should be. I don't think it is. So do you think this helps Ausar Thompson?
Well, I guess it does, but Stuart's been injured anyway. So what? It's not like, Stuart's going to be out for 2 weeks. You've got to run and grab Ausar, because Stuart wasn't playing. And so what we've been seeing from Ausar Thompson is what we're going to continue seeing from Ausar Thompson. And so I guess in theory it does, because he doesn't have that competition. So until Stuart gets back, there's a clearer path to minutes for him. But as you said, I'm not sure how long-term this punishment is going to be. Are they going to wait until, because it's obviously the police are looking at it, there's stuff happening, are they going to wait until all of that is done before they determine the punishment? Because that could be a month if they're going through footage and all that sort of stuff. So it's hard to know. So it probably does in theory, because it just means that there's more minutes to go around.
Sometimes I think that there are people who work for Sleeper that come in to ask me these questions without understanding what my response is going to be. Josh, have you heard of the Lockin Fantasy mode on Sleeper app? If so, have you any thoughts on that type of fantasy? Yeah, it's bad. Sleeper's bad. They're stubborn. They don't listen to any advice, and they're cutting out 80% of the fantasy market by being stubborn and thinking they know everything. The lock-in mode is that one where you can only play points leagues, and you can only play each player once per week, which again is not the way that the NBA works, or it's not the way that you can say it's not the way fantasy basketball works. But I'm all about trying to change things. It's not the way the NBA works, and they can tell me that it involves an extra level of skill. It doesn't, because game-to-game variance is so high, and it's not something that can be crazily predicted like that. It's not this level of skill. I actually picked the right matchup. Or you got lucky majority of the time. And I don't want to introduce a situation where more luck is involved with more variance across a smaller sample size of games to make it less skillful overall. Plus, they only have points league. So, Sleeper, bad. They need to be less stubborn, because they could easily be awesome at fantasy and just push Yahoo and ESPN into the dirt. But they refuse to listen because they think they know everything, and they're wrong. So, that was just me soliloquizing. Again, I feel like, Sleeper tries to put people to say this so they can get me to promote their stuff without understanding what I'm going to say. Time to drop DiVincenzo. I've had this question multiple times, King, and I am flummoxed. I'm flabbergasted that this question gets asked. What are we doing? Why? Kingy, talk some sense into this guy. What are you talking about?
No. I mean, I've got him on a couple of rosters. I'm not even considering it at this point. The hamstring, we all know how the NBA and how the teams manage hamstring injuries. So he'll probably be back up straight after the All-Star break playing 40 minutes. Probably injure it again and miss another 2 weeks. But this might not be anything serious. He does have basically 2-week break now, with only missing 2 games. So no, I'm not dropping him. He's been awesome.
Yeah, he's missed 1 game, and he's going to be back for their game after the break, is my understanding. That's what the Knicks said, that him and Hartenstein and Bogdanovic are going to be available first game back, which, again, I can criticize the NBA for hamstring stuff. That's going to make it 10, 11 days for Dante. And, well, actually, I think it's about 10, 11 days, which is fine. It's okay. So, he's fine. That is a crazy question, but it's not just you. Multiple people have said that. I haven't talked about the NBA going to a 2-day draft. I haven't. I don't like it, I don't think, mainly because I like it from my perspective, from being able to pay attention, because I like it, but I just don't think people are going to pay attention to the second round of the draft, because we don't... the second round of the draft just doesn't get utilized that much in the NBA. If they moved it to a 3-round draft and had round 2 and 3 on the second day, and I do think that is where this is going and why they're doing this. So there's your conspiracy theory. I think they've pushed it this way, because there'll be new teams coming in. 4 new teams, I think, over the next 6 years is my guess. So you're going to have extra picks in round 1. Plus, that'll mean you'll have, with the addition of that extra 2-way contract, I think you'll end up getting a 3-round draft, and day 2 will be rounds 2 and 3. That is my guess, Kingy. What do you think of it?
Yeah, look, it's certainly possible. Currently, as it sits at the moment, with just the second round on the second day, I'm not sure how much interest there's going to be. I mean, diehards will be watching, college people will be watching. But, I mean, the value that comes out of the second round is pretty low. I mean, obviously, there are some players that turn out to be really good, but it's a pretty low percentage. Who do you think the new teams are going to be?
Vegas and Seattle, Vancouver, and then the next one, they keep saying Mexico. I don't think that's a great idea. Elevation's insane there. Travel issues and stuff can be a problem. The fourth one, I don't know. I would hope that they would go to, these are the locations that I would say. Cincinnati, I think, is an option. I think Kansas or Kentucky, one of those. I know there's a lot of college basketball there, but I think trying that out would be interesting. Pittsburgh, San Diego would be the other ones that I'd be probably looking into. I guess Tampa as well, after they had the Raptors there for that post-bubble season. They'd be the other cities that I think. How do you view that?
Yeah, I think that the three that you said, Seattle, Vegas, Vancouver, were in my head as almost locks. And then the fourth is sort of up in the air a bit. There are options there. So it'll be, I don't mind Pittsburgh as an option. But yeah, I don't know. Seattle will be great to have a team back in Seattle, though.
It would. All right. Royas says, is it time to drop or trade away Cam Thomas? Now, you know me, biggest Cam Thomas fan in the world. Do not drop him. Like, what are we doing? He had a bad game last time out. But that is a ridiculous thing to drop him at this point. I was all about dropping him at about week 4, and then he was the 250th ranked player for the next 10 weeks. So I think that call was justified. And then they went back to him and played him more minutes, and the role was secure, and I don't think that role is really changing. Can you trade him away? Well, not after yesterday's game, but I'd be more than okay with trading him away because he is going to have a cold streak coming up, Kingy. Like, that's what he does. So what are you viewing Cam rest of the season?
Not a drop, yeah. No, I wouldn't drop him. Wait for him to have a couple of good games and try and trade him, see if you can. But just be aware that your trade deadline may have passed in your league as well. It depends on your league settings, but I know most of mine have. I think if you could trade him and get a top 80 player back, I'd probably consider it. But if not, just keep holding him. The Nets are a mess. They're bad.
Oh, my God, they're terrible. Daniel reckons none of my options work as cities. He said Austin is boom. But isn't Austin too close to Dallas? Like, you've got so many teams in that Dallas, Houston, San Antonio region. Like, adding a 4th Texas team feels like too much. But anyway, I guess San Diego is another California team. What do you think about Melton? We'll make this the last one, Kingy, because I'm going to keep you too long. Do you have got to work?
Yeah, I do.
Make this the last one then. Is Melton worth holding if all IL slots are full?
Right now, yes, because we've got the All-Star break coming up.
True. That is true because you don't need that spot. But otherwise I don't. Look, okay, let me rephrase old mate ZB's question here. Would you drop Melton with your IL slots full to add Tre Mann?
Yep.
Would you drop him to add Ausar Thompson?
Probably.
Would you drop him to add Amen Thompson?
No.
Would you drop him to add Grant Williams?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
I think my answer is yes for all of them, and I'll tell you why. I really like Melton as a player, but Nick Nurse has had some iffiness already with him this season in terms of minutes. We go, why isn't he playing Melton? What's he doing? Why is he playing Melton? Why is Beverly getting minutes? We said that all the time, right? Now he's coming off a prolonged back injury, which could flare up at any time, and Buddy Hield is going to start over him, according to Nick Nurse yesterday. Kelly Oubre is going to get some of these minutes, so Melton's probably not going to get that 30-minute a night starter upside. So his 24 minutes, which he might get off the bench, with a dodgy back of DeAnthony Melton, worth holding? In a points league, it's 100% no. Like, forget that. Not a chance in a points league. He can be jacked immediately. But in a category league, I just think that upside has been squished by Hield being there now and the nature of the length of this injury, that if I needed to move on from anyone where I felt the value was equivalent, if not higher, I think I would do it, despite really liking Melton.
Yeah, I think what I said, yes, I think the most of them. Man, I didn't, and the only reason was because of the Van Fleet. If he's back game 1 after the break, then Amen goes back to what he was before this last 2 weeks. But look, maybe that is, he has more value than Melton.
Look, it is interesting. It is tough, but I am a little out on where Melton's value sits at the moment. But Kingy, that'll bring us to the end of the show, because you got to go and do real life stuff, and I've got to go and talk about basketball more. So, tell people where they can find you and what you've got cracking over at the FBI.
At Adam King 91 on Twitter. Just our normal shows rolling out. I don't think we're going to do our show this weekend with me and Mike Fiddle, because there's no games. We normally just talk about the weekend, but there's nothing. I'm not talking about the All-Star game. So, we'll be back next week with our usual shows. Plenty of Dynasty stuff coming out as well. I know Matt Lawson's been busy with his Dynasty rankings and things like that. So, as you know, fantasy basketball never stops. So even as the off-season or playoffs and off-season approach, we'll still have plenty of content coming out.
Yeah, go and check out Kingy and all the shows that they are pumping out there over at FBI. Go and water your plants, Kingy, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, mate. Fun as always.
Guys, thanks, Kingy. Go follow him over there and get his show some numbers up. But also go and subscribe over here and hit that thumbs up and double bang and comment and all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, I won't be doing a What to Watch for Tomorrow show because you'll be watching me sleeping, probably passed out on the couch. Maybe that's a fun show for you. Who knows? So go and do all the things that you need to do, and I will catch you guys with the recap show later on today. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. See ya.